Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. On January 12th, profanity-laced voicemails from a Métis Nation Saskatchewan regional representative were shared online. Following an ethics investigation, MNS has now announced its decision on next steps. Brent Dignes, MNS Eastern Region 2 representative, has been suspended for an undetermined period. The Ethics Committee says the suspension follows a demonstrated abuse of power and the use of harmful language toward Métis citizens, women, and the broader community. In a statement, MNS says Dignes is not eligible for reinstatement for at least 6 months and must comply with conditions, including what they are calling a treatment and therapy plan. The committee says the penalty represents the maximum allowed under the Provincial Métis Council Code of Conduct. Nunavut's government raised the flag of Greenland today to show solidarity with the neighboring territory. All of the members of the Legislative Assembly are in Iqaluit this week for a full caucus meeting. Government leaders say it's a good idea to show support for Greenland as annexation threats continue to come from the United States. Nunavut's House Speaker David Jonassy organized the flag raising to honor the government's relationship with Greenland, as well as the personal ties many have. This past weekend, about 100 people showed up at a solidarity march in Iqaluit to show their support for Greenland. Jonassy says it was inspiring to see.
A peaceful protest of that nature, it's all towards democracy. And this is what our legislature stands for as well. So in that sense, we are raising the Greenlandic flag in recognition that the Greenlandic people do want to the right to self-determination, and we respect that.
And a reminder, APTN News has 2 reporters on their way to Greenland right now. They'll arrive tomorrow with stories rolling out in the coming days. Over a dozen organizations fighting to protect a pristine wildlife refuge in Alaska are once again turning to the courts. Last week, they amended a lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court in Alaska that challenges the Trump administration's efforts to open the refuge to oil and gas drilling. Sarah Connors has the latest.
The Gwich'in Steering Committee, along with several wilderness and environmental organizations, are renewing a lawsuit against the Trump administration's oil and gas leasing program in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. The 8 million hectare refuge is located in the northeast corner of Alaska. Within the refuge is a 60,000 hectare coastal plain. The plain acts as vital nursery habitat for the porcupine caribou herd and is considered sacred by the Gwich'in peoples in Alaska and northern Canada. In 2020, organizations fighting to protect the refuge from industrial development launched a lawsuit against the Trump administration. They allege the administration violated multiple laws when it finalized a drilling program for the entire coastal plain, though 2 subsequent lease sales attracted almost no interest from industry. The organizations paused the lawsuit during the Biden administration while its agencies attempted to reverse Trump's policies. After Trump's second presidential win, his administration quickly readopted its original plan and reinstated the few leases that were issued in 2021. The organizations say their original filing was updated last week to address those more recent developments under the second Trump administration. Defendants listed in the lawsuit include the Department of the Interior and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The service said in an email to APTN News it doesn't comment on active litigation. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Thanks, Sarah. Finance Minister Francois Philippe Champagne says Canada has no plans to pay President Trump's $1 billion price tag to join the proposed Board of Peace.
With respect to the Board of Peace, I think you've heard the Prime Minister as well of his intention of joining. There's a lot of details to be worked out, but one thing which is clear is that Canada is not going to pay if we were to join.
Multiple countries and leaders have been invited to Trump's new board, including Russia's Vladimir Putin. The board's charter says the organization is meant to promote stability, restore lawful governance, and secure enduring peace. First Nations leaders are firing back after Manitoba Hydro sent out a media release on Monday, stating that shotgun pellet damage was found on aerial marker balls attached to the Cross Lake power lines. In their own media release, Manitoba Kuwait-Nawi Okimakanak, which advocates for First Nations in northern Manitoba, says they support Chief David Monias and the people of Pimicikamak Cree Nation. MKO said they are appalled by Manitoba Hydro's attempt to introduce new theories about the cause of the power outage, and that the crisis began long before their theory that firearm damage may have caused the Pimicikamak state of emergency. Grand Chief Garrison Satie says this is a callous and disrespectful treatment of citizens who have already been through so much trauma. MKO says they are demanding transparency from Manitoba Hydro regarding what really caused the outage, and they're calling for an immediate meeting with Manitoba Hydro's minister and board chair to deal with the misrepresentation. 4 people from a northern Manitoba First Nation are facing a combined 42 charges, including forcible confinement after 3 days of incidents. The incidents took place in Chimawewin Cree Nation, 463 kilometers northwest of Winnipeg, from Thursday to Saturday last week. The evening of January 15th, RCMP responded to the first incident, where a fight broke out between one of the suspects and 2 others in a home. Not long after, other calls to the RCMP were made by concerned community members, including another incident on January 15th after a 27-year-old was stabbed in the leg. On the evening of January 16th, RCMP received a report that several males threatened a 22-year-old woman inside her home with a knife, where she suffered minor injuries. Then, in the early morning hours of January 17th, RCMP responded to a call where someone was trying to break into a home where a physical altercation between many people occurred, where one person was taken to hospital. In total, 3 men and 1 female were charged with 42 offenses, the most serious being forcible confinement, break and enter, and assault with a weapon. It's been 7 years since a 34-year-old single dad of 3 boys was killed in a hit-and-run accident in Vancouver. And the family are still trying to get justice in his case. APTN's Tina House has the latest.
It's been 7 years since Susette Amaya last saw her brother Donnell Auger alive.
Wow. I can't even believe that. I'll never come here. It's just too painful. I miss Donnell so much. I miss you, bro.
This is where investigators believe Donnell Auger was walking before he was hit by a vehicle sometime on the evening of December the 26th, 2018. The single father of 3 boys was left on the side of the road for an undetermined amount of time before a passerby called 911. He was taken to Vancouver General Hospital and died shortly after arriving. 12 hours later, a man turned himself in to police. It was later revealed he was a taxi driver. Despite strong evidence, Crown Counsel decided not to charge the cab driver, who has continued to drive for the same company ever since.
We have a lawyer, a law firm that's working on my brother's case. And, you know, VPD was pushing for criminal charges because of the hit and run and then leaving the scene.
Their mother, Clara, seen here in the original story, started a lawsuit against the driver and the company, but she passed away last year. So, Suzette is now the plaintiff in her late brother's case.
We just need some explanation as to why the driver, you know, was negligent at a crosswalk, well lit. My brother was wearing a white jacket. He had fluorescent shoes on, you know. The whole case just screams injustice. And so, you know, we're hoping that justice will be served.
However, Amaya says it's been a challenging time to get justice.
It's really difficult when the person who hit my brother, we've been trying to go to court and discovery, but he doesn't understand English. and then the person requested translation and now doesn't understand his language. So it's very frustrating when you're going through your case and you're reading all these things that are happening, you just want it to be resolved. How can anyone be driving anything that's public transit or service for community when they don't understand the language?
Donnell's 3 boys are now orphans, as their mother also passed just after their dad. For Suzette, the grief and loss are immense, and she just wants closure and justice for her brother.
And he's deeply missed. He brought joy to so many people's lives. And our whole family and all his friends, we miss him every day.
These allegations have not been proven in court at this time, and a court date has not been yet set in this case. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you'd like to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. You can read and watch our stories by going to our website, aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Still to come tonight, an update on another fatal police shooting in Eastern Canada. And we're just learning about the unexpected loss of a well-regarded medical professional in Manitoba. Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. We are learning more about the RCMP shooting death of Bronson Paul in the Tobique First Nation in New Brunswick that happened over the weekend. Here's an update from our Creason Achkate.
According to the Serious Incident Response Team, or CERT, Bronson Paul was involved in a domestic disturbance in a home in Tobique, also known as Negotkuk, on Sunday evening. Perth Andover RCMP arrived shortly after 5 p.m. and say they found Paul inside with an edged weapon and he advanced towards them. CERT says RCMP tasered Paul, but it was ineffective. Another officer then fired their service weapon, striking Paul. First aid was applied and Paul was taken to hospital, where he was later pronounced deceased. Bronson Paul is the second First Nation person shot and killed by RCMP in Eastern Canada in less than a week. Tobique Chief Ross Purley says leadership has closed the local RCMP detachment for safety reasons. Chief Purley says mental health services are available for community members in Tobique, and a sacred fire has been lit at a community hall. Chief Purley wants full transparency in CERT's investigation, and he wants more Indigenous representation within CERT. In a statement, New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt called for kindness, compassion, and understanding, adding, "We are deeply saddened by the death of Bronson Paul. Our thoughts are with his children, his family, and the entire Negotkuk community as they navigate this difficult and painful time. We have offered Chief Purley and Council our support and are committed to ensuring that the investigation proceeds in a fair, transparent, and urgent way so the family and community can have the answers and long-term solutions they need." Tobique First Nation is located about 180 kilometers northwest of Fredericton.
The former Liberal Justice Minister and Attorney General of Canada, Jody Wilson-Raybould, has announced publicly that she has breast cancer. She made the announcement on Monday afternoon in a social media post. Wilson-Raybould said following a recent surgery, she will be starting her treatment for breast cancer shortly. She's calling for other women to monitor their health and well-being and seek regular mammograms and make sure to get tested for other cancers and illnesses. Wilson-Raybould says she will honor her grandparents and parents who continued to work while facing their own illnesses by working on her new book on leadership. Wilson-Raybould served in the Liberal government from 2015 to 2019 prior to her resignation from cabinet. In a statement, Jody Wilson-Raybould added, While this is scary and unsettling, I take strength from the many of you who shared your stories of resilience and healing with me over the years. I'm also so grateful to my surgeons and BC Cancer Agency for their wonderful care and all the love and support around me from my family and friends. The head physician of a health and wellness center that represents 23 First Nations in northern Manitoba has died. And as T.R. Wheatley explains, the news of Dr. Barry Lavallee's passing comes as a big shock.
Early Tuesday afternoon from the Kiwetanuk Ininu Minoeawan, or Kim, where he was the chief executive officer. A brief statement on Kim's website and social media said only that Lavallee passed away unexpectedly and that further updates were forthcoming when deemed appropriate by his family. The statement said, in part, his powerful voice commanded attention. He spoke up for those who could not and left an impact that will be remembered. He was a fearless advocate for those who faced injustice and harm, and he fought tirelessly for First Nations people. Lavallee is from the St. Laurent Métis community and has ties to the Saulteaux communities of Duck Bay and Lake Manitoba. In 2022, he was awarded the Medal of Excellence from Doctors Manitoba for his years of advocacy and for his work helping Indigenous communities during the COVID pandemic. On another note, Dr. Lavallee was accused of anti-Semitism from the B'nai B'rith for some of his comments on the war in Gaza. However, Lavallee was also recognized by many Indigenous organizations during the pandemic, including the Manitoba Kiwetanui Ugamaaganak organization, who are also sending condolences on the loss of Lavallee. In a statement, MKO Grand Chief Garrison Settee said, during the COVID crisis, Dr. Lavallee guided our nations with a steady hand without fear, ensuring citizens from Northern First Nations had priority to vaccinations. He reminded us of what true service looks like, and we will carry his teachings forward. As news of his passing continues, condolences are pouring in from all over Canada and the world. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Sad news indeed. Time for one last quick break, but stick around. There's more to come. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Toby Wilson came up on a very rare sight along Highway 6 in northern Manitoba. A lone wolf casually walking along the road. Thanks, Toby. Great shot. Looks like you're in your car there. Good idea. For the chance to be our next photo of the day, you can send your photos to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, sunny and -4 for Charlottetown, -2 for Halifax. 20 below for Kuujjuaq, -12 in Nain. -6 in Montreal, sun's out, and 12 below for Chibougamau. -7 for Sault Ste. Marie, North Bay, and Ottawa. 12 below for Thunder Bay, -14 for Sioux Lookout. -20 for Thompson and God's Lake. 12 below for Winnipeg, -11 for Dauphin. -10 for Regina, 11 below for Saskatoon. -15 for Meadow Lake, 28 below for Stony Rapids. In northern Alberta, -21 for Fort Chipewyan, 17 below for Fort McMurray. -10 for Edmonton, sunny, and -4 for Lethbridge. Sun's out and +8 for Vancouver and Victoria, 4 below in Kamloops. -4 with sunny skies for Prince George, 5 below for Smithers. -19 in Old Crow, 13 below for Whitehorse. -28 for Yellowknife, 19 below for Norman Wells. -22 for Sax Harbor and Colville Lake, 21 below for Paulituck. -24 for Chesterfield, Whale Cove and Arviette. -23 for Resolute, 36 below for Joe Haven. Now to another rare sight, this one on the ice, as the gloves and trappers were off last night in Florida for an old-fashioned goalie throwdown.
And here comes Bobrovsky all the way down the ice.
After a scrum behind the San Jose's net, the Panthers goalie charged the length of the ice to square up with the Sharks netminder. It was the league's first goalie fight since 2020. Each goalkeeper received a 5-minute major, plus an additional 2 minutes for leaving the crease, and a standing ovation from the crowd. Bobrovsky's my starting goalie in my fantasy league, so hope he didn't hurt himself there. Not that he's done me any good this year. A rare and stunning glimpse now into orca hunting behavior was captured off the coast of Victoria. This pod of orcas is known as the T19s, and they are transient orcas, or bigs, killer whales, which silently pursue larger prey, such as the sea lion hunt, while resident orcas are more vocal and feed on fish. The Orca Behavior Institute says this successful hunt took place last week in the Haro Strait. Métis entrepreneur Ross Memphis Pambrum is our guest on an all-new episode of Face to Face tonight. Pambrum is an eclectic guy whose resume includes podcasting, musician, artificial intelligence specialist, fire chief, and the host of APTN's Red River Gold. He credits his success with always being willing to try something new.
The more times you put your hand up, as you surround yourself with great people with great ideas, the most amazing things happen. And because of that, I had a podcast where I was talking about Indigenous conversations. Because of that, one of the directors who I was working with there called me up one day and he said, "Ross, do you want to search for lost gold in Manitoba from the 1800s? And I said, "Saxon, I'll have my bags packed and be ready to go in an hour." Now, it doesn't quite work like that when you get on TV, but what I came to learn was this huge collision of who Ross Pambrum was, whether it was Ross Pambrum doing science, whether it was Ross Pambrum as a firefighter, whether it was Ross Pambrum as an actor, whether it was Ross Pambrum as a podcaster, or as a musician. People want to celebrate those opportunities.
Memphis is quite a character, and you can watch our entire interview with him right here in about a minute and a half from now. We're all out of time for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For news anytime, though, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. And Creason will be back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for your first look at the day's news. I'm Dennis Ward, Marcy McGuitch. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.